Competitive? Fun to play when it goes off? Yeah. Hey everybody, Espira, and we're back with another Shadowverse Evolve video. Today we're going into a super fun deck, one that can actually go into so many different builds. We are looking at Flame and Glass, which is an awesome neutral-based archetype almost, which allows you to be able to mix and match in any way that you go. Today we're going to be looking at Dragoncraft, but I've also been looking at Runecraft and kind of seeing if like Abyss can kind of get there. I think generally Dragoncraft lends itself to the best way to run this strategy just because it actually allows you the best chance to play Flame and Glass at 10, has a few draw discard synergies. So in that front, I think it lends itself really well to the combo, but nonetheless, it is open to so many different things. Like I said, trying out Rune. Maybe that'll come out better. We're trying out things, seeing what works the best. With that said, here's my build of the deck. To kick us off for the uninitiated, Flame and Glass is a 10 cost storm with 7/7 in stats and has the strike ability. You get to deal 3 damage to each enemy follower on the field. If there is a Harnessed Flame and Harnessed Glass in your cemetery, you deal 7 instead. So basically, if you have these 2 cards in your cemetery, it is effectively a full board wipe, and then she's a 7 damage, which is huge. It does like that it's on strike. It means it's repeatable, but you do have to swing into a ward to get rid of it, which is a little bit of a pain in the butt, but nevertheless, it's kind of a sweet combo to be able to get off when you get off. So what is Harnessed Glass and Harnessed Flame? They are 2 3-drops, one of which allows you to draw and then bottom deck a card, which is really good because it synergizes with Flame, which has an activate ability for 1. You get to put this card and Harnessed Glass from your field to your cemetery, search your deck for Flame and Glass, and put it onto the field. So effectively, this turns this 10 cost play into a 7 cost play, and then you have the Glass and Flame set up in your cemetery. If you do it across 2 turns, you can actually set up Glass on turn 3, and then on turn 4, go into Flame. The issues here are definitely the consistency and of course the fact that you can clunk your hand with Flame and Glass. Harnessed Glass does help in that she shoves Flame and Glass back into the deck if you drew into it and then allows you to tutor it back out, which is really neat. But naturally, it does lend itself to having a bit of tough where sometimes you just don't see the appropriate cards. And I think that's why we go into Dragon, because Dragon being ramp allows you to actually be able to cast for 10 because you have so many ways to draw and discard via Shenlong and other similar cards. It kind of gives you the best chance at kind of getting the combo off. Now, I will say outright, this is not hyper competitive. If you're going to play a Dragon build or a Runecraft build or any of those decks, unfortunately, this is such a thick package and the payoff can sometimes be middling depending on the matchup that I would not 100% commit to it. If you're trying to be as competitive as you can, just go with like your typical Ramp Dragon, your D-shifts, your dirt runes, anything. But if you're trying to have fun, I think this deck really tries to optimize the best ways in which you can get the combo off every single game. So from the keynote pieces, we jump into the ramp. Of course, we are Ramp Dragon, so we're going to do our thing to make sure that if we're ever stuck with 10 in hand, we actually are able to play out Flame and Glass. We have Dragon Oracle, our just staple turn 2 play, and we do run Ayla. We only run Ayla as a 2 of, just because at 3 can kind of get a little clunky, but I do want for those slower matchups to be able to get her out and then push us into those higher play point ranges. From there, of course, we do need time to actually get into our later plays. Yes, there's a world in which we get off Glass on 3, Flame on 4, and then we're going into Flame and Glass, but that's few and far in between, especially since we can't consistently guarantee that we're going to have those in hand. We need to be able to stall out for us to be able to actually get off our combo. So with that, we are maximizing on Blazing Breath and running 2 executions as our targeted removal, and then as our board wipes, we're going into 2 Dragon Wings and 2 Conflagrations. I don't necessarily mind if I'm board wiping away the Flame and Glass, just because them being in the cemetery synergizes with Flame and Glass herself. So there's that extra component that I actually don't care if my stuff dies. If my Ayla dies, we're able to ramp a play point. I don't necessarily care. I'm really just trying to get to our bombs. But of course, we are still a Dragoncraft deck, and we do still need to kind of play out the game in a way that is conducive to winning, which means we're not putting all our eggs in our basket of just doing Flame and Glass, but also we need our mid-range pieces to make sure that we're able to apply pressure, control board. So with that said, these staple kind of like kit for Dragon, right? Like every Ramp Dragon deck kind of like starts off with these cards and then you start splashing in other things. So of course we run them ourselves. 3 Bell Ringers because we want to get to the late game. 2 Shapeshifting Mage. Honestly, Shapeshifting Mage is the one where like you could probably cut it out because we run so much removal in the form of our spells. I do actually think there's room in which you don't necessarily need the Bane, but it's not a terrible inclusion as well. So we do run it at 2 at the moment. But if you want to make a cut for more, let's say, Path to Purgatories, which we're going to see a little bit later on, you could totally do that. Otherwise, Dragon Warrior, just a very good, consistent 3-drop body. Forte, because if we're going to be applying 7 damage through our Flame and Glass, she's such a great top end to then get that little last bit of damage, whether you have the aura or not. Shenlong is so good because the draw and discard, it allows us to be able to dig. Obviously, the heal off the evolve form is such a big deal. And then the pitch allows us to be able to kind of set up our cemetery necessary if we're in a position where we just need to Flame and Glass. And then, of course, Lucifer, just because it's a great stabilization piece that can also push that last little bit of damage. If we hit 7 with Flame and Glass, maybe we hit 7 with Forte, we can put ourselves in a position where Evolved Lucifer is able to close out the game. And of course, between all these 6, which are kind of our mid-ranger pieces, also happen to be where our evolutions lie. So we are running 1 Bellringer Angel, just kind of has that flex, 2 Shapeshifting Mage, 2 Dragon Warriors, 2 Fortes, 2 Shenlongs, 1 Lucifer. Kind of standard fare. To be honest, pretty generic in terms of the things you expect to see. There's a world in which you can kind of toss in a 3rd Forte or a 3rd Shenlong, not that I think it's necessary, but could happen at that point. Maybe you cut a Bellringer Angel or something like that. It's kind of up to your choice up from there. At this point, we don't have too much room in the deck. You do have a Path to Purgatory, which I think is a great way to draw. Initially, in a list prior, I had Insights, but then I figured if I do include Lucifers, then it makes sense to run Path to Purgatory. I think Path makes more sense in traditional ramp because you have more Lucifers. This deck is only running 2. In traditional ramp, you probably run 3. You have more opportunities to be able to gain life. And in that sense, I think drawing into more bigger bombs is better. Whereas here, sometimes you might just be drawing into combo pieces that don't totally come together, but you do still need the additional card draw to be able to dig out. Obviously, Glass helps out a lot in being able to kind of cycle through cards from the top of your deck, but a deep draw helps a lot, especially since it's attached to a board wipe. And again, we are running Lucifer in this iteration, which means we can line up the board wipe alongside healing back up to 10, which kind of puts us in a semi-comfortable position, especially when you count for Lucifer's ward. And of course, if you just want the deck, well, here's the deck. We are stuck on a consistent of 40. Like I said, any of the real modifications are kind of like in the 2-drop slot where you can sub out those guys to kind of bring in a little bit more control or maybe a little bit more card draw. We are currently only on 1 path. I could totally see reasons for us to go to 2 or I don't know about 3, but you can definitely see yourself going to 2. It's a little bit stuck, and kind of why I say it's hard to include Flaming Glass in a lot of different strategies, just because the package is 9 cards. So effectively, almost 25% of your deck is dedicated to that. And while I think Dragon has some room, I could see us just throwing out those combo pieces, adding better mid-range pieces, and having a better overall deck. But nevertheless, I think the combo is really neat. I love Flaming Glass as a card and as a concept, and as such, I will definitely be checking this out. So you guys are definitely going to want to subscribe because I'll be playing this most likely against Cause very soon. So if you guys want to see gameplay of this deck, you guys will want to stick around. With that said, guys, that's my deck. Let me know what you guys think. Like I said, I have a rune build that I'm looking into. If I can get that build in a place that I like, I'll probably showcase that one as well. With that said, that's the deck, and I'll check you guys on the next one. Ciao.